The untouchable campus heartthrob. The guy every girl swore was out of her league. And I reeled him in with a single scrap of paper. Here's what I didn't figure out until much later. The one who got played start to finish was me. That note. He'd been waiting 3 years for it. That's how I ended up dating Sebastian. My best friend taught me her trick for stealing a seat in the library during finals. Find a hot guy. Write him a note confessing your feelings. If he gives you one disgusted look, packs up his stuff, and walks out, congratulations. You've got a seat. And if the hot guy says yes? I asked. She went quiet for 2 whole seconds. Then congratulations. You've got a boyfriend. Then again, maybe conned isn't the right word for what I did to him. Because I never actually wanted to date the guy. At the start, all I wanted was his seat. Frankie was the one who swore the trick worked every single time. So there I was in a packed library, scanning for a target. I picked the hottest guy in the room, the one who made a plain white tee and black pants look criminal, and slipped him my note. I've had my eye on you for a while. Want to date me? Sebastian read it. Then he looked up at me. He was quiet for a moment. Then came the smallest nod. But my eyes were glued to his seat. I hadn't clocked what that little nod meant. Not until he laughed, soft and low. He picked up a pen and drew a thick line under the words date me. Then he wrote back. Same format, note for note. Yes. Let's date. I got it. And then my brain short-circuited. That was the moment we became official. That was the day we swapped numbers, too. A total stranger had just shown up in my contacts under the label boyfriend, and none of it felt real. But he seemed so casual about the whole thing. He probably didn't care much either, right? So I gave a breezy little wave, tossed out a talk later, and fled the scene with my backpack hugged to my chest. Then I found a paid study cafe off campus, and put my head down until noon. When I went out to hunt for food, the girls at the next table kept saying something about a hard launch. Some celebrity going public with a relationship, I figured. Didn't think twice about it. I had a Wagyu rice bowl to enjoy. Then Sebastian's name came out of their mouths. Sebastian went public. Okay. Now I had to pay attention. I yanked out my phone. The unreads had exploded. The group chats had exploded too. Every last message about the same thing. Sebastian going public. And the source of the chaos was one post he'd put up at 9 that morning. Sebastian. June 11, 2026. 8:35 and 29 seconds a.m. The second I fell in love. The photo attached was the note. My note. He'd even circled 2 little hearts in red pinned down in the corner, so it looked like he'd stamped it. Sealed it. Pressed his thumbprint into it. Down to the second. Who hard launches down to the exact second? Like he'd been waiting on that 1 second for years. I rubbed my cheeks. None of it was computing. How did we go public just like that? I didn't keep up with Sebastian's life, but I knew the deal. He sprained an ankle, and it trended for days. Never mind a girlfriend. I had the strange, sinking feeling I'd started something I couldn't stop. Hands unsteady, I opened Frankie's chat. 37 unreads. I started carefully from the top. Frankie. Frankie. Sebastian has a girlfriend. Frankie. He hard-launched it. It's on Instagram. Frankie. Though honestly, what a joke way to get together. You write one note and boom, you're dating him. Frankie. Hahaha, people are saying the note got picked up off the floor. Why is there a shoe print on the edge? Like somebody stepped on it, lol. Frankie. Kind of looks like your handwriting. You notice that? Frankie. Ha, and now all the girls who struck out on him are calling Sebastian a sellout. The untouchable went full simp LMAO. Frankie. For real though. That's your handwriting. Frankie. Wait. Frankie, no. No. Hold on. Frankie. I just taught you the seat trick. And the very next thing he gets a confession note. Frankie. So this is yours, isn't it? Frankie. I knew it. Frankie. Don't you dare play dead. Frankie. Josephine. Get out here and talk. Then a barrage of reaction gifs. Frankie. Staring.jpg. Frankie. Dead-eyed staring.jpg. Frankie. I will stare at you forever.jpg. Nothing for it. I confessed. It was me. On the matter of snagging a campus heartthrob along with a library seat, Frankie's verdict was, go for it. Not just go for it. Go all in. Her take was that a hot guy had been delivered to my door free of charge, and not kissing him would be a criminal waste of resources. But I really wasn't ready to date Sebastian. My plan had been simple. Let it sit. Get through finals week and the long summer, and by the time September came around, even the strongest feelings would have cooled off. Never mind whatever joke of a thing he and I had. Sebastian, apparently, had other ideas. At 10 a.m. he texted. Want to grab lunch? I was buried in my books. Didn't reply. 10:30, another one. So tired. Got myself a coffee. Want me to grab you one? 10 minutes later, talking to himself. Okay. Guess you're swamped. At 11:30, a photo came through. Dining hall food. Him. Lunch of champions. Him. Green beans are stringy. Think I'll survive. Him. Did you eat? Him. I know a quiet spot. Want to study together this afternoon. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I'd meant to ask him why he made that post. But after that string of texts, the question just wouldn't come out. So I typed his name instead. Me, Sebastian. He came back in a heartbeat. Emir. Me. Where's the spot? Take me with you this afternoon. We set it for 2 o'clock. The poly-econ building. Plenty of time to kill, so I went back to my dorm for a nap. Meanwhile, the whole Sebastian going public thing kept fermenting across campus. The one saving grace was that barely anyone knew the note traced back to me. I'd fully planned to sit Sebastian down and talk it all through. But the second I walked into the poly-econ building that afternoon and saw him, I froze up all over again, right there in the doorway. He changed clothes. Gone was the easy white tee and black pants from the morning. Now it was a pale blue striped shirt and iron gray slacks cut to flatter every line of his legs. And the whole thing made him look impossibly tall. His hair looked freshly done. Even that slight curl at the ends was working overtime for that face. He smiled at me. Crisp. Clean. Staggeringly good looking. Like he'd rehearsed this meeting 100 times over. Like he'd prepped for every last second of it. Before I could ask, he explained. Got a little sweaty. Figured I'd shower and change. Oh, sure. I trailed after him, watching him key open one of the offices, still reeling from how good-looking he was. Oh my god. This was the premium boyfriend I'd landed off a library seat? Dating him a little wouldn't be so bad. Honestly, right now, I kind of wanted to kiss that mouth. Sebastian pulled the chair out for me, then dug a remote from a drawer and turned on the AC. A visiting professor's office. He's barely ever on campus. I come here to read sometimes. It's quiet. Quiet, all right. So quiet I completely miss one obvious question. If he already had this study haven, why drag himself to the library every single day to read? Wasn't that the long way around? That question. I wouldn't think to ask it for a long, long time. Sebastian turned around. Long fingers rose to the side of his neck, unhurried, working open the top 2 buttons of his shirt. His throat moved. A silent swallow. Paired with that clean, refined face, the whole of him gave off a pull I couldn't put into words. I caught myself staring. My eyes stuck on the slow bob of his throat. The air between us pulled tight, and my own breath snagged on it. I looked away fast and cracked open my water bottle, taking a long swig. He came closer, laughing at me. That thirsty. I kept my eyes on his face. Why'd you make that post today? Sebastian went quiet, then said dead serious. I was happy. Couldn't help it. Not the answer I expected. I'd assumed he just wanted to make it Instagram official or whatever. So you're saying you're serious about this? About us? Very, he said. My gaze finally dared to drop back to his mouth. Then can dating involve kissing? Sebastian blinked. He sat up a little straighter. Right now. Now it was my turn to blink. I'd figured the most he'd say was yes or no. I hadn't expected him to be even more direct than me. My gut reaction was to say no. We'd known each other a single day. Dating plus kissing already felt a few steps past my comfort zone. The no sat right there on my tongue. Then I remembered something a cousin of mine once said, back from one of her setups. A man you can't even bring yourself to kiss, she told me, is a man you can't date or marry. And suddenly I wanted to know whether this thing with Sebastian actually stood a chance. So I said, not right now. Okay. He took it calm as anything. Not a flicker of disappointment in his eyes, like the question had been idle to begin with. He uncapped the cold water bottle by the desk and tipped his head back for a swig. I made my move while he wasn't looking. Bracing on the edge of the desk, I leaned in fast and dropped a quick kiss to the corner of his mouth. Quick. Gone the second it landed. I licked the cool water off my lip and took stock. Soft. Cool, a little damp. I didn't mind it at all, so maybe we could do this dating thing after all. Sebastian was still stunned. He capped the bottle back up slow, then slower, then lifted his eyes to me. Something helpless and delighted sat in them. I couldn't quite name what it did to me. It was almost like I was being adored. The thought jolted me, and I sat up straight. Study. Let's study. Sure thing, he said. I looked down at my book. Never saw how long he watched me. After that, Sebastian and I saw each other constantly. Finals week was long and grueling. One exam after another, and I had to psych myself up for every single test. Except for the half days I had exams, we spent all our time in that office in the poly-econ building. Mostly studying. And once in a while, really, only once in a while, I'd turn to Sebastian, reading quietly beside me and say, I'm sick of studying. Come here and let me kiss you. Sebastian usually said nothing. Asked nothing. He'd gotten used to my neurotic little demands for kisses. He'd just turn his head and look at me, this shy smile in his eyes. Like a flower waiting to be noticed, every line of his face saying, I'm about to bloom. I loved that feeling. Kiss him whenever I wanted. Get whatever I reached for. I was even getting a little addicted to it. Sebastian really was the most low-maintenance boyfriend. He never interrupted me while I studied. Quiet when it was time to be quiet, and never a killjoy when it was time to goof off. 10 days back, I wouldn't have believed I could click this easily with a guy who was basically a stranger. Finally, I got through the last exam. I was the one who suggested it. Let's go out tonight. A real date. Sebastian planned the evening. He picked a mall far from campus, ruling out any chance of running into a teacher or a classmate. That was another thing I loved about him. Once I'd mentioned I didn't want anyone at school knowing about us, he quietly buried my identity. Even our meetups in the poly-econ building were run like a spy exchange. One ahead, one behind. One left, one right. Nobody knew about me. All anyone knew was that Sebastian had a girlfriend somewhere. People kept guessing who she was, and Sebastian never told. It didn't match the guy who'd gone loud and public the day we started dating. But he never asked why. It was like the second I suggested something, he'd just do it. No questions. Nothing but indulgence. This was the guy who time-stamped falling in love down to the second. The guy who'd wanted to broadcast it to the entire school. Sometimes I wondered where the limit to Sebastian's patience with me actually was. But testing a boyfriend I'd had all of 10 days felt like too much. I didn't want to stir anything up, so I let it drop. Over dinner, Sebastian asked, "Flying home tomorrow? You got someone with you?" I paused a second. "Yeah, I've got company." He didn't ask if it was a guy or a girl. Just good. "Text me when you land." I nodded. Right on cue, the person I was flying home with the next day messaged me. "Spencer. 10 a.m. downstairs at your dorm. I'll be waiting." Spencer. Don't sleep in. Pig. That last pig came stuck to one of those cutesy pink stickers, delivered in the same can't stand you tone he always used. It made me shift a little in my seat. I held up my phone for Sebastian. That's him. Spencer. We grew up together. The boy next door. More precisely, the boy next door who'd turned me down exactly 1 month ago. I don't know when my feelings for Spencer curdled into something else, but I realized it right before college started. I agonized over it for 2 whole months, and finally made up my mind to confess. On my birthday, I was the one who said it first. I like you. Not a joke, not a prank. A girl telling a guy she liked him, and asking him to really think it over. Spencer's answer was this. He didn't want things between us to get awkward. Better to stay friends. I took the out in silence. Things got awkward anyway. But over the past month, I trained myself to stop thinking about dating him at all. Sebastian's eyes flicked to my phone screen. He go to our school? The one across town. Scary smart. Got in as the state's valedictorian. Certified genius. Sebastian looked at me. You're scary smart too. I'd spent my whole life in the shadow of Spencer's academic glow. Even if I'd always told myself my grades were nothing to sneeze at, I could never once call myself a genius. Not with someone better sitting right there. How could that be me? But Sebastian's praise landed somewhere warm, and I mumbled shy. Oh, stop. Sebastian set down his fork. I'll drive you two to the airport tomorrow. That surprised me. You're not rushing home? His exams had actually wrapped 3 days ago. He'd stuck around campus a few extra days just for me. He smiled. I can grab a cab home whenever. What's the rush? Right. No point talking homesickness with a local. The next morning, Spencer showed up at my dorm at 9:30. Called every 5 minutes until he finally got me downstairs by 9:50. He checked his watch. Not bad. Improvement. Figured you'd drag it out till 10. I couldn't say why, but I couldn't let him wait around for me guilt-free the way I used to. I fired back without thinking. 10 isn't dragging it out. You set it for 10, remember? Spencer huffed, ignored that, and just said, I called us a car. Wait. I stopped him mid-step. Spencer turned, confused. The words came out strange, but I said them anyway. My boyfriend's driving us to the airport. He'll have a car. Right as I finished, a sleek black Range Rover rolled to a stop at the foot of the dorm. Spencer didn't even glance at it. He kept his eyes on me. Your boyfriend. His voice went flat. Since when do you have a boyfriend? The driver's side door of the Range Rover clicked open, and Sebastian stepped out into the crisp morning air. If he looked like a cover model in a pale blue shirt yesterday, today he looked like an actual heir taking a casual victory lap. He wore a dark charcoal crew neck, black trousers, and silver-rimmed glasses resting on the bridge of his nose that gave him an intellect meets danger edge. He didn't glance at Spencer. His eyes locked straight onto me. Morning, he said softly, his voice low and smooth as velvet. He reached out, effortlessly, taking the heavy roller suitcase from my hand before I could even lift it. Did you sleep well? Yeah, I stammered, still feeling a bit caught off guard by his sudden appearance. Spencer stood 3 feet away, his jaw tightly clenched. He looked between Sebastian, the car, and me. his eyes narrowing into cold slits. As the state valedictorian and the undisputed star of his campus, Spencer was used to being the tallest, smartest, and most impressive person in any room. Standing in front of Sebastian, however, that golden glow took a violent hit. "Joe," Spencer said, his voice dropping into that familiar, commanding tone he used whenever he thought I was making a bad decision. "Who is this?" Before I could answer, Sebastian closed the trunk with a soft, heavy thunk. Turned around, resting one hand casually on the hood of the car, and offered Spencer a polite, razor-thin smile. "Sebastian," he introduced himself, extending a long-fingered hand. "Josephine's boyfriend." Spencer stared at Sebastian's hand for 2 full seconds before giving it a brief, reluctant shake. "Spencer, her childhood friend." He placed a heavy emphasis on childhood friend, as if 12 years of history could instantly crush 10 days of dating. "Ah," Sebastian murmured, his expression entirely unbothered. "The guy from the text messages. The certified genius." Spencer flinched slightly. He shot me a sharp look, clearly unsettled by the fact that I'd mentioned him to my new boyfriend. "I didn't realize you were dating anyone," Spencer said to me, ignoring Sebastian entirely. "You didn't mention a word about this when we spoke last week." "It happened pretty fast," I said honestly, scratching my cheek. "Finals week was chaotic." "Fast." Spencer let out a cold, humorless scoff. "Joe, you've been at school for 9 months. You don't just pick up a boyfriend in 10 days unless you're being impulsive." "She didn't pick me up," Sebastian chimed in smoothly, opening the back door for Spencer while holding the front passenger door open for me. "I was just lucky enough that she chose me. Shall we get moving? The morning traffic on the highway gets pretty heavy after 10. The tension in the driveway was thick enough to cut with a butter knife. Spencer glared at the open back seat. In our old dynamic, Spencer always sat up front, and I sat wherever he told me to. Now Sebastian had subtly assigned him the back seat like an unwanted third wheel. Spencer bit his lip, swallowed his pride, and climbed into the back. I slid into the front passenger seat. The interior of the Range Rover smelled faintly of cedarwood, white tea, and Sebastian's clean perfume. On the center console sat a warm paper cup from my favorite bakery off campus, complete with an iced matcha latte and a small brown bag containing an almond croissant. "Thought you might be hungry," Sebastian said quietly, reaching across to pull my seatbelt down and click it into the buckle for me. His fingers brushed lightly against my hip as he adjusted the strap. The touch was fleeting, but my skin burned through my sweater. "Thanks," I mumbled, my face warming up. In the rearview mirror, I caught Spencer staring at us. His knuckles were white, where he gripped his knee. The drive to the airport took 45 minutes. It was without a doubt the most agonizing 45 minutes of Spencer's entire life. Every 5 minutes, Spencer tried to start a conversation with me, bringing up inside jokes from high school or old neighbors from our street. "Hey Joe, remember Mrs. Gable's dog? The one that chased you down the alley in 8th grade?" Spencer asked from the back seat, leaning forward between our chairs. "My mom said it finally passed away last Tuesday." "Oh," I said, taking a sip of my matcha. "That's sad." "Yeah. My mom was saying we should all go over to her house for dinner this Sunday once we both get back," Spencer pressed on. "Just like old times." Before I could answer, Sebastian casually reached over with his right hand, rested his palm over mine on the center console, and wove his fingers through mine. He didn't say a word. He kept his eyes on the road, driving with one hand, his thumb gently tracing slow, mesmerizing circles on the back of my hand. My brain went completely blank. The matcha in my mouth nearly went down the wrong pipe. In the mirror, Spencer's eyes widened in absolute shock. "Is the air conditioning okay for you, Joe?" Sebastian asked softly, his thumb continuing its hypnotic movement against my skin. "You feel a little cold." It's perfect," I squeaked. Spencer snapped. "Joe, can I talk to you for a second? Privately." I turned my head slightly. "We're in a car, Spencer." "What is it?" "I mean about us." "About home," Spencer said, his tone tight, edge sharp. "You're acting really distant. Ever since you got down here, you've been avoiding my calls and now you show up with." He gestured vaguely at Sebastian. "This. I haven't been avoiding you," I said, setting my drink in the cup holder. "I was studying for finals. And Sebastian isn't this. He's my boyfriend." "A boyfriend you met 10 days ago." Spencer blurted out, losing his cool, refined mask completely. "Joe, be realistic. You don't even know him. Do you know his family? Do you know his background? You don't just leap into a relationship with a guy who drives an $80,000 car just because he's good looking." Sebastian let out a soft, low chuckle. It wasn't an angry sound. It was the amused, relaxed sound of a man who had already won the lottery watching someone Complain about the weather. He pulled the car smoothly into the airport's departure lane and put the Range Rover in park. Then Sebastian turned his head, resting his arm on the steering wheel, and looked directly into the back seat at Spencer. Mr. Davis, Sebastian said, his voice terrifyingly calm, civilized, and unshakable. I respect that you and Josephine have a history, but her decisions are her own. She isn't an impulsive child who needs your permission to date someone. And if you ever speak to her in that condescending tone again, you'll be taking a cab back from the airport next time. Spencer stared at Sebastian. His face flushed a dark, furious red. Who the hell do you think you are? We're here, Sebastian interrupted smoothly, unlocking the doors with a crisp click. He turned back to me, his entire demeanor softening instantly into pure warmth. Text me when your gate opens, okay? I nodded, my heart hammering against my ribs. Okay, thanks for the ride. I unbuckled my belt and stepped out into the morning air, while Spencer retrieved his bag from the trunk, looking like he wanted to punch the nearest wall. Sebastian walked around to my side. He pulled me into a brief, firm hug, his chin resting against the top of my head. Have a good flight, Joe, he whispered into my hair. Then he leaned down and pressed a slow, soft kiss to the corner of my jaw, right below my ear. My toes curled inside my sneakers. See you soon, I mumbled, entirely dazed, as he let me go with a playful wink. As Spencer dragged his suitcase toward the terminal entrance, stomping his feet like an angry toddler, I looked back one last time. Sebastian was still standing by his car, hands in his pockets, watching me walk away with an expression so tender, so deeply devoted, that it made my stomach flip upside down. This wasn't just a low-maintenance boyfriend. This guy was dangerous. Summer break in our quiet hometown was usually predictable. Hot afternoons, cicadas buzzing in the maple trees, and endless days spent reading on the porch. In past years, Spencer and I would hang out almost every day. He'd come over to my house, sit at my desk, and quiz me on advanced reading lists while complaining about how slow everyone else was. I used to think that was how affection worked: tough love, high standards, and constant elevation. Now, sitting on my bedroom rug in shorts and a loose t-shirt, looking at my phone, I realized how suffocating it had actually been. My phone buzzed. Sebastian, just finished a meeting at my dad's office. Sebastian, look what I found outside. Photo, a tiny chubby orange stray cat sleeping on the hood of a car. Sebastian, thought of you. I couldn't help but smile, tapping back a quick reply. Me. Why did it make you think of me? Is it because I'm cute, or because I sleep a lot? Sebastian, both. Mostly the sleeping. Sebastian, miss you. I stared at those two words. Miss you. It had been 4 days since we parted at the airport. 4 days of nonstop texting, voice notes, and late-night calls that lasted until 2 a.m. I was falling hard, fast, and completely out of control. Right then, my mother knocked on my bedroom door and pushed it open. Joe, Spencer's downstairs, she said, holding a basket of folded laundry. He brought over some fresh peaches his mom sent from their orchard. I blinked. Oh, tell him I'm studying. My mother gave me a strange look. Studying? School ended 4 days ago. Go downstairs, Joe. Don't be rude. I sighed, put my phone in my pocket, and walked down the wooden stairs. Spencer was sitting on our living room sofa, wearing a crisp white polo shirt and khaki shorts. He looked clean, academic, and entirely familiar. On the coffee table sat a basket of giant pink peaches. Hey, Spencer said, standing up when he saw me. His voice was softer than it had been at the airport, carrying a hint of hesitation. Hey, I said, leaning against the doorframe, keeping my distance. Thanks for the peaches. Joe, Spencer took a step toward me, his eyes searching my face. Can we talk? Seriously this time. Without anyone else around. Sure, I said, walking out onto the front porch. What's up? We sat on the porch swings. The warm summer breeze rustled the leaves above us. Spencer stayed quiet for a long moment, staring at his sneakers. When he finally spoke, his voice sounded cracked and strained. I haven't slept well since we got back, he admitted softly. Every time I close my eyes, I see that guy driving you off. Spencer. No, let me finish, Joe. Please, Spencer interrupted, turning to look at me with raw, desperate eyes. I know why you're doing this. You're doing this because of what happened on your birthday, aren't you? I frowned. What? My answer to your confession, Spencer said, his knuckles turning white as he gripped the porch chain. I told you I didn't want things to get awkward. I told you we should stay friends. And I was stupid, Joe. I was so arrogant. I thought you'd always be there waiting for me, so I didn't think I needed to rush. He reached out, trying to grab my hand. I pulled my hand back, tucking it under my knee. Spencer's hand froze in midair. A look of agonizing hurt crossed his face. I made a mistake, Joe, he whispered, his voice shaking. I like you. I've always liked you. I just got scared of changing what we had. Please stop this fake relationship with that guy. Break up with him. Let's be together for real. I sat on the wooden swing, listening to the boy I had pined over for 2 whole years lay his heart on the floor. A month ago, those exact words would have made me cry with joy. They would have been the happiest words of my life. Now, I felt nothing. Not a single spark. No flutter in my chest. No heat in my face. All I felt was a deep, quiet relief that he had said no on my birthday. Spencer, I said, my voice clear, steady, and entirely calm. It wasn't a fake relationship. Spencer froze. What? I didn't date Sebastian to make you jealous, I said, looking him straight in the eye. I didn't even think about you when I asked him out. I date him because I like him. I like the way he looks at me. I like the way he listens to me. I like that when I'm with him. I don't feel like I have to prove how smart I am, just to be worthy of his attention. Spencer stared at me, his face going pale as chalk. Joe, you've known him for 2 weeks. And in 2 weeks, he's treated me better than you did in 12 years, I said, gently. I'm sorry, Spencer, but you missed your chance. And I've moved on. Spencer left 10 minutes later. He didn't take the peaches. He walked down the driveway with his head bowed, his shoulders slouched, looking like a man who had watched his own house burn down because he forgot to turn off the stove. I sat on the porch swing for a long time, watching the sun set over the rooftops, feeling a strange, weightless freedom wash over my entire body. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Incoming video call, Sebastian. I swiped the screen instantly. Sebastian's face appeared on the display. He was sitting in what looked like a dark, luxurious hotel room, wearing a plain black t-shirt, his hair slightly damp from a shower. The warm yellow lamp behind him highlighted his sharp jawline and those impossibly deep eyes. Hey, he murmured, his voice low and raspy through the phone speaker. Did I interrupt anything? No, I smiled, leaning back against the porch pillow. Just sitting outside. Sebastian zoomed in on my face, his eyes narrowing slightly. You look tired. Did that guy bother you again? He came over, I admitted. Sebastian's posture instantly shifted. His eyes went dark, the soft, lazy boyfriend mask dropping for a fraction of a second to reveal something fierce and cold underneath. What did he want? He asked me to break up with you, I said, watching his reaction carefully. He said he likes me and wants to be with me for real. Sebastian stopped moving entirely. Through the screen, I could see his hand tightening around his own phone so hard. His knuckles turned white. For 3 long seconds he didn't breathe. And? Sebastian asked, his voice dropping into a dangerously quiet register. What did you say? I told him no, I said smoothly. I told him I'm already taken by a very handsome, very low-maintenance guy who buys me matcha lattes. The tension in Sebastian's shoulders didn't dissolve immediately. He stared at me through the screen, his dark eyes searching my face as if looking for any sign of lie or regret. When he found none, he let out a long, ragged exhale, running a hand through his damp hair. Good, Sebastian whispered, his voice laced with a raw, intense relief that caught me off guard. Because if you said yes, I was about to buy a plane ticket tonight and drag you back. I laughed, thinking he was joking. You're crazy. I am, he said, dead serious, staring straight into the camera lens as if he were looking directly into my eyes. You have no idea how crazy I am about you, Josephine. My breath hitched. Before I could say anything back, a loud knock sounded on Sebastian's hotel room door in the background. Sebastian, you in there? A male voice shouted from the hallway. The director's asking for the final budget reports. Sebastian looked away from the screen, letting out an annoyed sigh. In a minute, he barked back toward the door. He turned back to me, his tone instantly softening into that gentle, indulgent murmur again. I have to go handle some family business. I'll be in your town tomorrow afternoon. I blinked. Tomorrow? You said you weren't coming until next month. I changed my mind, Sebastian smiled, his eyes curving into 2 beautiful, mesmerizing crescents. I can't wait a month to kiss my girlfriend. See you tomorrow, Joe. The call disconnected before I could even process the words. I clutched my phone against my chest, my heart beating like a drum inside a narrow cage. Tomorrow. He was coming here tomorrow. Sebastian arrived at 3 p.m. the next day. He didn't drive his Range Rover. He took a train, carrying a single leather duffel bag over his shoulder, wearing a simple white polo and dark jeans. When I met him at the small-town train station, he looked so breathtakingly out of place among the quiet, rustic surroundings that several high school girls on the platform were openly staring at him and taking photos. The second he saw me walking toward him, he dropped his bag onto the wooden bench. He didn't care about the crowd. He didn't care about the cameras. He stepped forward, caught my waist with both hands, and pulled me flush against his chest, dropping his head down to press a deep, long, possessive kiss directly onto my lips. It wasn't like the quick, shy pecks we exchanged in the polyecon building. This kiss was deep, hot, and demanding, his tongue sliding past my lips, tasting like peppermint and dark coffee. His hand slid up my back, pressing me tighter against him until there wasn't a single inch of space left between us. I melted into his arms, my hands instinctively wrapping around his neck, my fingers burying into his soft black hair. When he finally let me go, we were both breathless. Sebastian rested his forehead against mine, his dark eyes sparkling with a fierce, triumphant light. "Missed you," he murmured against my lips, his thumb stroking my flushed cheek. "You're insane," I gasped, my face burning as I noticed the train station attendant watching us with wide eyes. "Everyone's looking." "Let them look," Sebastian smirked, picking up his duffel bag with one hand and weaving his fingers firmly through mine with the other. "I want everyone in your hometown to know who you belong to." We spent the afternoon walking through the small town streets. We ate ice cream by the river, sat on the park benches, and held hands the entire time. It felt like a dream. At 6 p.m., I took him to my house. My parents were thrilled to meet him. Sebastian, being the master of charm when he wanted to be, brought my dad a bottle of rare scotch and brought my mom a set of imported silk scarves. Within 20 minutes, my father was treating Sebastian like a long-lost son, laughing over political economics, while my mom kept piling fresh fruit onto his plate. "So Sebastian," my dad asked over dinner, pouring him a glass of water, "what made you decide to come down to our little town for the weekend?" Sebastian set his fork down, looked across the table at me, and offered a soft, brilliant smile. "I came to see Josephine, sir," Sebastian said honestly, without a single shred of hesitation. "I missed her too much to stay in the city." My mom let out an audible, delighted gasp. My dad choked on his rice, coughing into his napkin, before looking at Sebastian with a mixture of shock and deep approval. "Well," my mom beamed, beaming from ear to ear, "it's about time Joe found a boy who actually knows how to appreciate her." I buried my face in my hands, my ears burning like fire. After dinner, my dad let Sebastian stay in our guest room on the second floor. By 11 p.m., the house was dark and quiet. I couldn't sleep. My mind was wired, buzzing with the events of the past 12 hours. I tossed and turned on my bed before finally getting up, opening my bedroom door, and creeping quietly down the hallway toward the guest room. I knocked softly on the wooden frame. The door opened instantly, as if Sebastian had been standing right behind it, waiting for me. He wore a gray t-shirt and sweatpants, his hair damp from a shower, smelling faintly of my family's sandalwood soap. "Can't sleep?" he whispered, a knowing smirk touching his lips. "No," I murmured, slipping inside his room. He closed the door silently, locking it with a quiet click. The room was lit only by the pale moonlight streaming through the window. Sebastian took my hand, pulling me over to sit on the edge of the large bed. "Your parents are great," Sebastian said softly, sitting beside me, his arm wrapping naturally around my waist. "Your dad talked for an hour about historical economics. He loves that stuff," I smiled, leaning my head against his shoulder. "You didn't have to pretend to be interested, you know." "I wasn't pretending," Sebastian murmured, his lips brushing against my hair. "I want to know everything about your world, Joe. Everything you grew up with." I sat in his arms, feeling the steady, warm beat of his heart against my back. As I shifted slightly, my hand brushed against his heavy leather duffel bag, sitting open on the bedside chair. Something hard inside the front pocket caught my knuckle. I looked down. It was a thick, worn leather-bound sketchbook with yellowed pages protruding from the side. "What's this?" I asked idly, reaching out to pull it from the bag. "Do you draw?" Sebastian turned his head. The second his eyes landed on the leather sketchbook, in my hand, his entire body went completely rigid. "Joe, don't," he blurted out, reaching out quickly to grab it. His reaction was slightly too fast, slightly too panicked. My curiosity flared instantly. I yanked the book back, ducking away from his reach, and flipped the heavy leather cover open under the moonlight. "What are you hiding?" I teased, flipping through the front pages. "Is it embarrassing high school photos? Secret poetry?" My words froze in my throat. The smile on my face slowly crumbled into complete, unadulterated shock. The pages of the sketchbook were filled with drawings. Dozens of them. Hundreds of them. And every single drawing was of me. I stared at the pages in absolute, suffocating silence. Page 1. A sketch of me sitting in the high school library 3 years ago, wearing my oversized gray hoodie, holding a pencil between my teeth as I solved a math sheet. Page 4. A sketch of me standing under a bus stop awning during a thunderstorm in 10th grade, clutching my soaked backpack to my chest. Page 12. A detailed portrait of my face in profile, reading a book by a window. Dated November 14, 2023. Page 20. A drawing of me sitting at the state math competition 2 years ago, wearing contestant badge number 084. And at the bottom of every single drawing, written in neat, precise, elegant script, was a date, a timestamp, and a single sentence. June 11, 2023, 4:15 p.m. The day I saw her for the first time. October 2nd, 2024, 8:10 a.m. She wore her green coat today. Beautiful as always. May 19, 2025, 5:30 p.m. She looked at Spencer again today. I wish she would look at me. My hands shook so violently the sketchbook nearly slipped from my fingers. My breath came in short, shallow gasps. My brain scrambled, trying to process the sheer, terrifying scope of what I was looking at. 3 years. He hadn't met me 10 days ago in the university library. He had been watching me, drawing me, and tracking my existence for 3 entire years. Joe. Sebastian's voice sounded behind me. It was raw, shaking, stripped entirely of its usual smooth, untouchable composure. I slowly turned around to face him. He was standing by the bed, his face pale as chalk under the pale moonlight, his fists clenched tightly at his sides. He looked terrified, like a man caught standing in front of a courtroom waiting for his death sentence. You. My voice cracked, raspy and barely audible. How long have you known who I was? Sebastian swallowed hard. He took one slow, hesitant step toward me, his dark eyes filled with a desperate, agonizing vulnerability. 3 years, he whispered. Since the high school regional math Olympiad in 9th grade. You sat in the row ahead of me. You solved 40 problems in 30 minutes and then fell asleep on your desk. I stared at him, my mouth open. You went to that? I was the representative from the private academy across the river, Sebastian murmured, his voice trembling. I sat right behind you, Joe. I watched you win first place. I watched you smile when they handed you the trophy. And I couldn't stop looking at you ever since. He reached out a trembling hand, his fingers stopping an inch short of touching my cheek, afraid I would flinch away. I tried to get close to you in high school, he confessed, tears suddenly welling in his dark eyes. But you were always surrounded by Spencer. Every time I saw you, you were looking at him. You were smiling at him. You were giving him your notes, your time, your heart. I had no place to step in. I sat on the edge of the bed, my mind reeling. Then the university. I breathed. You came to my school. I didn't come to your school by accident, Joe. Sebastian let out a bitter, self-deprecating laugh. I turned down early admission to Columbia and Stanford, just to enroll in the same department as you. I spent 3 months tracking your class schedule. I learned your habits. I knew you went to the library every morning during finals week. He dropped to his knees in front of me, right there on the rug, placing his hands on my knees, looking up into my face with an expression of pure, unadulterated, desperate devotion. The seat trick, Sebastian whispered, his eyes shining with tears under the moonlight. Your friend Frankie taught you the seat trick, right? I blinked. How? How do you know about that? Because I paid Frankie $500 2 weeks ago to tell you about that trick, Sebastian admitted softly. Silence, heavy and absolute, dropped over the guest room like a velvet curtain. I sat motionless on the bed, staring down at the untouchable campus heartthrob, kneeling on the rug at my feet. The guy who made a plain white tee look criminal. The guy whose sprained ankle trended on social media for days. The guy every girl swore was completely out of her league. He had paid my best friend $500 just to teach me a stupid library seat trick, so that I would walk over and hand him a confession note. You. I stammered, my head spinning so fast I felt dizzy. You set the whole thing up. Every single second of it, Sebastian confessed, his voice shaking as he leaned, his forehead against my knees, his hands holding my waist as if terrified I would disappear into thin air. I sat in that exact library seat at 8 a.m. every morning for 5 straight days, wearing the clothes I knew you liked, waiting for you to walk up to me. He lifted his head, his dark eyes searching my face with raw, terrifying honesty. When you dropped that note on my desk, my heart nearly stopped beating. I knew it was a prank. I knew you just wanted the seat. But I didn't care, Joe. I didn't care if it was a joke, a trick, or a mistake. I was never going to let you go. June 11th, 2026. 8:35 and 29 seconds a.m. The second I fell in love. The timestamp on his Instagram post. It wasn't the second he fell in love with me. It was the exact second his 3-year trap finally snapped shut. You timestamped it. I murmured, tears suddenly springing to my eyes. Down. To the second. Because I waited 3 years, 2 months, and 14 days for that exact second. Sebastian wept softly, pressing his cheek against my hand, kissing my palm over and over again. I'm sorry, Joe. I'm sorry I lied. I'm sorry I manipulated things to get near you. If you think I'm a creep, if you hate me, you can slap me, you can hit me, but please, please don't leave me. He was shaking. The powerful, fearless heir who drove an $80,000 car and shut down Spencer with a single sentence was shivering like a scared child in front of me. I looked at the worn leather sketchbook. I looked at the 3 years of dated drawings. I looked at the boy kneeling on the floor, offering me his entire heart, his entire soul, and his entire dignity without a single shred of pride left. I let out a long, shuddering breath. Then I reached down, wrapped my arms around his neck, and pulled him up onto the bed, burying my face in his neck. Sebastian froze in my arms. Joe, you're an absolute idiot, Sebastian. I sobbed into his shoulder, laughing through my tears. You spent $500 on Frankie. She would have given you my schedule for a $20 Starbucks gift card. Sebastian let out a sound that was half gasp, half sob. He wrapped his arms around me with crushing force, lifting me into his lap, pressing his face into the crook of my neck, kissing my throat, my jaw, my cheeks with a frantic, desperate passion. You're not mad, he rasped, his hands trembling against my back. You don't think I'm crazy. I think you're completely, hopelessly insane, I whispered, pulling his face back to look into his dark, wet eyes. And I think I'm completely in love with you. Sebastian's breath caught in his throat. Say it again, he commanded, his voice hoarse, his eyes burning with a blinding, breathtaking light. I love you, Sebastian. I said, every word clear, solid, and absolute. I loved you before I knew about the sketchbook. And I love you even more now. Sebastian didn't wait another second. He captured my lips in a kiss so deep, so intense, and so fiercely passionate that it felt as though he were trying to pour 3 years of waiting straight into my soul. We fell back onto the soft mattress together, wrapped in each other's arms under the pale summer moonlight, leaving the secrets, the games, and the past far behind us in the dark. The fall semester opened on a bright, crisp September morning. University of Economics was alive with new students, rolling suitcases, and buzzing campus energy. At 9 a.m., the main campus bulletin board and the official university Instagram page posted a simple, single announcement from the student union. Announcement: official welcome to the class of 2026. Attached was a photo. It wasn't a formal headshot of the administration. It was a photo taken outside the Poly-Econ building during finals week last semester. In the photo, I was sitting on a stone bench under a cherry blossom tree, fast asleep with a textbook resting on my lap. Standing beside me, leaning down with an umbrella held carefully over my head to block the afternoon sun, was Sebastian. He wasn't looking at the camera. He was looking down at my sleeping face, a soft, breathtaking, utterly smitten smile on his lips. Underneath the photo was a simple caption written by Sebastian himself. Meet my girlfriend, Josephine Brooks. Touch her and you're expelled. The entire campus message board detonated like a nuclear bomb. Holy Mother of God. The mystery girlfriend is Josephine from Econ? The untouchable heartthrob hard launched again. Wait. Someone pulled up the old library post from June. It was her handwriting on the note. She got the campus. God with a one-line note. What kind of black magic is this? Look at his face. In the photo, he looks like a golden retriever waiting for his owner to wake up. R.I.P. to Spencer Davis across town who thought he had a chance. LMAO. I walked down the main campus avenue wearing a simple white sweater and dark jeans, holding a warm hazelnut latte. Beside me walked Sebastian. He wore a dark blue jacket, his hair styled casually, his hand holding mine firmly, his fingers interwoven with mine for the whole world to see. Every 10 steps, students would pause, stare, and whisper in shocked awe. Sebastian didn't care. He didn't even look at them. He kept his eyes on me, leaning down every few minutes to whisper something stupid in my ear just to make me laugh, looking like the happiest man on the face of the earth. As we crossed the central plaza, a familiar figure walked toward us from the opposite path. It was Spencer. He wore his university blazer, holding a stack of debate files, looking thin and noticeably quiet. He stopped 10 feet away, his eyes landing on our joined hands. Sebastian paused, his posture tightening slightly, but he didn't pull away. He simply stood beside me, tall, confident, and unshakable. I stopped, looking at Spencer with a quiet, polite smile. Hey Spencer, I said smoothly. Spencer looked at me. He looked at the radiant, healthy glow on my face, the absolute peace in my eyes, and the way Sebastian's hand held mine as if I were the rarest treasure in the world. He realized then, with absolute crushing clarity, that the girl who used to run behind him carrying his water bottles was gone forever. Spencer swallowed the bitter lump in his throat, gave a brief, tight nod, and murmured, "Congratulations on the semester, Joe." "Thanks," I said. "Good luck with your debate team." Spencer walked past us, his steps heavy, disappearing into the crowd of new students. I didn't turn back to watch him go. I looked up at Sebastian, who was staring down at me with a soft, questioning look in his dark eyes. You okay? Sebastian asked softly. I've never been better, I smiled, standing on my tiptoes to kiss his jawline. Let's go to class, boyfriend. You're gonna make me late. Sebastian let out a low, beautiful laugh, pulling me closer against his side as we walked toward the lecture hall. 3 years later, June 11th, 2029. The sun was setting over the coastal cliffs of Malibu, painting the Pacific Ocean in brilliant shades of gold, rose, and amber. A private beachside villa was decorated with thousands of white roses, fairy lights, and glass lanterns reflecting the ocean breeze. I stood on the balcony overlooking the water, wearing a breathtaking ivory silk gown that draped softly around my frame. My hair was tied up in soft waves, anchored by a delicate pearl clip. Still checking the time? A smooth, familiar voice sounded behind me. 2 long arms wrapped gently around my waist from behind, pulling me back against a warm, broad chest. I leaned my head back against Sebastian's shoulder, looking up at his handsome face. At 24, he had filled out into a broad-shouldered, dangerously attractive man, the newly appointed managing director of his family's international firm, though to me he was still the same boy who bought me stringy green beans in the dining hall. He wore a bespoke black tuxedo, his dark hair styled neatly, his eyes shining with an absolute, unshakable devotion under the twilight sky. I'm checking the clock, I smiled, holding up my left hand. On my ring finger sat a flawless, 3-carat oval diamond ring, and engraved on the inner band of the platinum setting, in tiny, elegant script, were 8 numbers and 4 symbols. June 11th, 2026, 8 hours 35 minutes and 29 seconds. Do you remember what you said to me 4 years ago in the library? I asked, softly, turning around in his arms to face him. Sebastian smiled, that soft, beautiful, shy smile that still made my heart skip 3 beats every single time. I told you yes, he murmured, his long fingers gently cupping my cheek, his thumb tracing my lower lip. I said yes. Let's date. And you hard-launched me 30 minutes later, I teased, wrapping my arms around his neck. Because I knew if I didn't lock you down immediately, some other guy would realize how brilliant you were, Sebastian whispered, leaning down until his forehead rested against mine. Best $500 I ever spent in my life. Frankie still brings that up every time we drink, I laughed. She deserves a raise, Sebastian chuckled, his dark eyes locking onto mine with an intensity that made the rest of the world fade into quiet background noise. He looked down at my lips, his breath warm against my skin. Happy anniversary, Mrs. Vance, he whispered softly. Happy anniversary, my premium boyfriend, I murmured back. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in pure gold, Sebastian leaned down and kissed me, a slow, deep, breathtaking kiss that sealed a scrap of paper, a library seat, and a lifetime of love down to the very exact second.